Hi, I'm Jason Ross. I own TSM Studio. I also went to Full Sail. And I did not know this about these guys. I know, how weird this is. I also interned to get to where I'm at, and I did not know that these guys did that too. That's great. Basically, I went to Full Sail back in 2002. I worked at a studio while I went to school there, and when I graduated, I got hired there. A couple months after that, I started TSM, and now we are 12 years old, and we have an operation down in Orlando.
So, Jason, what was your story? You were at Full Sail too as a student, and then you sort of made the transition into the industry space.
I have a very, I don't know the word I want to say here, a very big perspective on how I feel about internships, because I definitely got to my level because of an internship. I actually was talking, there's somebody out in the audience who's doing podcasts, and I told him yesterday, I said, my first month of Full Sail, I called a studio and I told him I wanted to work there, and they said, "Whoa, did you just graduate?" And I said, "No, I actually just started there." And the guy was like, "Well, you won't know anything." And I told him, I said, I don't care. I'll just clean, I'll do whatever. And I told them yesterday in the radio show that he said no. I called back the next week, and that week I told the guy I would clean the toilets with my bare hands if he just let me just do construction. I didn't care. Nope. So I called back the week after that, and I did not say it that way. I said it the way that you foul minds would think. The next week I called back and I said, "It's me again," and he was like, "All right, man, that guy lost his job to me after I graduated." We're still friends though, because I went in there and I had passion, persistence, everything that you guys said, I agree. The biggest problem I see with students when they do internships is if you went to his label and you could state specific things about his label, why you wanted to work there, do you think that would be something that he would want to hear? Somebody sends me an email and says, "Hey, I want to intern at your studio." I said, "Great, what do you think is one of the coolest things we've ever done?" So to put it into perspective, there's two ways that internships, you got to go in, you got to leave your ego at the door, expect nothing, make yourself a presence to be dealt with, but know that what you want to get out of it. Because most people I see at internships come in and I don't know what to do. Well, I've got a business to run, so I don't really want to tell you what to do, but if I come in and you're doing something, it's like, well, that's really impressive, and that's a way to make an impression. And my last final thought on that is, and I'm going to make her feel really weird, the girl in the back with the camera, right? She came in as part of the program that they're discussing. It's called 3300. She came in as a part of that to our studio, and one of the students in that, we were doing a recording session for their artist, walked out of the room and left the door to our studio room open. She looked at the door, looked at me, nodded at me, and went and shut the door. That was it. I said, when we're done with the session, stick around. She's now worked with us for about 3 or 4 months. She's made money. She's gone, she's sat in sessions, and now she's here in Nashville hanging out and checking it out. It was that simple. And there were 40 other people in at that meeting who said nothing to us, never asked us really anything, came in and sat in the room. You know, don't interrupt the sessions, don't interrupt wherever you're going to intern. If you're going to intern, don't go interrupting, but don't leave without saying anything. I mean, you know, it's like I was really couldn't believe that everybody that came there that day just kind of like sat in and then they left. Like, okay, well, no one asked about the studio, no one asked about coming back, no one anything. And one little thing that she did got her involved in a bunch of things. And that's the thing about internships is they should teach studio etiquette and they should teach internship like 101, because it's not about coming in and forcing yourself into the room or sitting around. It's exactly what all of us did. You know, we showed that we wanted that job. We kept our mouths shut when we were supposed to. We talked when we were supposed to. And when somebody asked me to go get them a coffee with 4 Irish creams, 2 caramel creams at 3 in the morning, I went and did it with a smile and came back. And then later down the road, you gain that respect from people. They know that you're going to work harder, and you let everyone else there know that. So, you know, internships is a kind of a thing for me, because I just see people just taking the advantage of like, oh, I got an internship, and then they go, and then when they aren't being told what to do, they're sitting at a chair. It's like, hey, come out and say, hey, I fixed this for you. I did this for you. I noticed that this was bad, so I went and did this. You know, you gotta stand out. You're in an industry with a lot of people that want your job or the job that you're going to try to go get. So what are you going to do to be different?
And but how did you get to where you are? I mean,
So I started working. It's funny because he knows Steve-O, and actually we were all talking about this. He worked with Paramore, and Paramore was actually recording at the studio that I was interning at the time when I was an intern. The girl was 16, short, redheaded little girl. There was this buzz about her, which it's cool that they became such a big band. But I worked. I literally didn't sleep. I mean, one thing I tell you about, I don't know, you guys don't all go to Full Sail, but the people that do, the one great thing about Full Sail is it really teaches you how to live without a lot of sleep. You have a class at 1 in the morning till 5 a.m. and then 5 to 9 you sleep, and 9 to 1 you have another class. And so, I lived really poor. I lived off the money that they gave me, and so instead of getting a job or hanging out, I went to school and I went to the studio, and then I graduated in November 1st, got hired at the studio, and then I quit on March 8th to start my company. Because it's just a matter of, if you have a vision and a passion, you got to follow it, you got to do it. And I worked all that time to get that job, but they didn't want to grow in the way I wanted to grow. So I stayed really good with them. We used them. We stayed as a good resource. People that worked there, and so just growing my network and my resources is a big thing. I mean, pick a city that you want to live in and build there. Where I live, I've got a lot of respect, a lot of connections there. But if I were to move, let's say here tomorrow, I'd still have those people to call, but I wouldn't have anything here compared to what I've built there. So, I think that's a big thing for you guys too, is wherever you're feeling like, and just do it, because I can't speak for all of you, but if you're poor right now, right, or you're not wealthy, and you start to build something, it's really difficult to go back to that stage, right? Like, I could not live like I lived when I started this, but when I started it, I didn't really have anything. I had a wrecked Corolla. I lived in a house with a couple people I rented. I had almost nothing to lose, and I think that's one of the biggest things. If you have a dream that you guys want to do, and you're not in a spot where, you're like, well, I don't really have that much to lose, go do it, because when you do have that much to lose, or children or wives and husbands and nice stuff, it's a lot different to say, well, I'm going to throw all that away and attempt to go for my dreams. So just, if you want to do it, go do it, because you don't want to look back and go, well, this is a bummer. Now it's 20 years later and I didn't do what I wanted. So, for me, it was just, I just went for it. I worked all that time, got that that internship led to a job. And I kind of gave it up after 5 months, because I was like, they're not going to go as hard as I want to go, and so I had to do that. That's how.
As an individual, how do you give back, for sure, and share your experience, your wisdom, your success with the students, so that kind of case is inspiration and a roadmap for others? That's one piece.
And then Jason, who is in a different situation, owns his own company, right? So I know you definitely have given back to the school.
Yeah, I've gone up there and done a bunch of classes where they'll pitch, like how they did for his record label, or they speak to the kids about what they want to do, and then let them come by, like when they had the 3300 and they had the artist development, let them use our studio. I actually even had my team do the recording and the mixing with them and production and stuff. So I'm on the PAC board too, and I wanted to touch back on just real quick, because I didn't get a chance to say anything about that, the entrepreneur stuff we were talking about. Education, absolutely supremely important. In this business, what's really weird about it is it's a very creative business, and there's, over my time, I've realized, there's a lot of people are like analytical or they're creative. It's very, there's rare to find the one that's both, but it's, a lot of times you can find somebody who's really creative, but they don't really like school that much, or somebody who really loves school, but they can't really come up with things. And I think what's important about this industry is, from the academic perspective, is you're learning the base on what like you said, what's all out there and the base on how to learn those things, but you're also meeting a huge team of people. Every time I go to California for work, somebody that I went to school with is who I stay with when I'm out there. So, you know, it's important you're learning the beginnings of the different, what do you want to be? Do you want to do artist management? Like you said about engineering, I mean, totally the same way. I went there to engineer. After a little while, I'm like, you know, when I was making music at my house and doing that, that was a lot of fun. But doing this full time, all the time, it's not maybe what I really wanted to do. But if I wouldn't have gone to school and learned and then done that also professionally, I would have realized like I really want to focus more on the business side of it. So just that's what I'd like to say about the education. It's most certainly important. But meeting people, getting out there and practical, you're not going to come out of school and just I mean, I met people who went to school for recording and came out and said, I'm an engineer. It's like, you're not an engineer for a long time. You know, that's not something that just happens. But then to give back to the students, you know, it's difficult because I love to help the students. I love to teach. I've gone up a couple times. There's a few people in the class that have been in sessions at Full Sail that I got to go speak to, and I'll stand around and talk to them. I'll let them, if they're local, they can come in and I'll sit down with them. To me, giving information to someone is free if that helps them out, because ultimately you're building additional allies. I mean, you never know who someone is. You never know. I mean, somebody in this room could be a connection that could grow everything you're trying to do. But it's difficult on a like, how do we do this and make it happen in every scenario? So what I could give back to Full Sail for what they've done to me is different than what he could do, because of, you know, I've got, you know, he's working at a specific place and they've got this goal and we have this facility and our goal's it's a little bit easier to come in and sit down and talk to us, whereas, you know, Atlantic, you know, that's a little bit of a different vibe. So I think ultimately if it's up to the individuals that go there and then do something successful, it's kind of on us to try to give back, like, you know, going and having coffees or going to the school, or, you know, sitting on the board and promoting, here's how these students could learn a lot better. I think it's just up to us, and as people that are doing well, we should be trying to advocate that to the other people that are doing well. Like, you know, what are you doing to give back? You know, if you're wealthy, you donate money to charities. Well, if we're doing well in our industry, how can we help everyone that's trying to come up? How do we help them? And I think that's something that it falls on us, you know. I wanted to add just something too, just real quick about you brought up the education and the entrepreneurial stuff. You know, I think it's really important if you guys as students to try to figure out that in the beginning, like, do you want to start your own business or do you want to work for somebody? Because that is absolutely, you know, every time I go to Full Sail and I speak to students and we start talking, that's the first question I ask them. I think Mick right here in the front, I spoke with him via the internet when I was there. And I think that's always the first thing I say. So do you want to own your own business or do you want to get a job somewhere? And a lot of times they're like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, you should know that for sure, because how you learn and what you do, internships, learning anything, should be different for those two things. You know what I mean? Like, I own a business. This is different than working for somebody. It's like working for a lot of people. It's a never-ending thing. You know, you work somewhere, you might work 9 to 5, and maybe that's what you want in life. And so you should determine those things first, because that's going to definitely, you know, direct your path.
I mean, one thing on that, I would say to Chris's point about these programs, and Andrew's point too, that these programs provide you with a process of omission, a process of elimination, finding out the things you don't want to do. It's perhaps through these programs you go think that I want to go work for somebody else, and you go do that as an intern, and you find out, I'm not going to do that. You quit 4 months into and you're like, I'm going to start my own business. Yep. So it's using this time to answer that question. You may not know that as a freshman, but maybe as a junior or a senior, you have a clearer conception of, I am going to start a business, and I'm going to use all of this experience of the last 2-3 years I've gained to kind of inform how I'm going to go about doing it.
And I think too, to that point, it's a lot different now. You know, even for I graduated in 2003. I mean, just technology. I had a sidekick that could barely get on the internet, and now I have an iPhone where, you know, I can. I mean, it's what can't you do with your phone or your computer? So, you know, the thing is business is the face of entrepreneurship, and business has changed tons over the years, just because, you know, I didn't have Google to look up every answer back in the day, or YouTube to have a tutorial on how to do anything, basically. And so I think now you're finding people who are less afraid to start a business because they can get a little bit more of the resources that they didn't have back in the days. Because that's the thing, is ultimately, even trying to get a job somewhere, most employers, their mentality is, and a lot of people don't get this, how can you make us money? You know, like, if you're coming to my studio and you want a job there, how are you going to make me money? I'm not just going to make money and pay you. Like, how do you make the company money? Now, in a bigger company, they're making money. You come in and you take over a role that is already bringing it in. But small businesses want to know, if I'm hiring you, how are we going to get paid out of this too? And I think that's the mentality of people are afraid of, is people are afraid of sales. If you're a good salesman, own your own business. Just saying.
So my question is mainly for Jason, because you own your own studio, but feel free to chime in. I just accepted an internship at a recording studio, and a lot of the responsibilities will be to clean and whatnot, but I'll be the only music business student there. All the other students are like recording art students. So my question is, what would you look for in a music business student as an intern to like that would impress you, and some of the challenges your studio may face that I could help with the studio?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and I have a specific answer for you, because Melanie, who's back here, same thing I told her. I said, well, why did you do this? What did you want to learn there, right? So, okay, how about if I told you then, as an intern, I'll give you the opportunity to develop a program that you can implement at my studio, that even if I let you just keep some of the money or all of the money at first, you try to. So, for example, I told her, you know, I'm starting to work with some artists. I'm like, one of the things that we lack is booking. You know, a lot of that's all. Not like he was saying, it's not easy to go get the money at the end of the day. So I said, well, if we're going to develop artists and we want to get those artists out somewhere, they're going to have to perform live. So your job is to develop relationships and contacts, do your research. Because asking you want to ask me for help, you know, I need this, I need that, but I want you to go do the work. But what I'll do is provide you the facility, you know, if we have artists that are coming in, let me introduce you to this artist. They're recording here. They're going to be under our artist development that we're working on. But what we're missing is we need somebody to find out where they can perform. So that's your job. If you make that happen, now you have created what you want to do for a living. And it's also helping me make money because I'm owning a business. I have the overhead, but it's also creating a job for you in that company, right? Because if you can do that without me, then that's fine. But you don't have the resources, especially as a new student, that our company would have, the connects that we already have. I might be able to connect you with somebody, and then you develop that. So with that studio, I would ask that person, what kind of things are you wanting to grow here? And then, you know, these guys made a great point too. Just want to say this real quick. It's easy to come up with ideas, but it's hard to deploy those ideas, and that is everything. You know, it's not that I couldn't figure out how to go do the booking, but I would rather have somebody that's coming in who's hungry, young, doesn't have anything to lose. Go out and get this and build this and make yourself part of it. Yes, what you guys got to do is go out and make yourself part of what you want to be, whether it's working somewhere at Sony, at you know, Spotify, or your own thing. You have to go out and make yourself valuable to get that. So I hope that helps you. And guys, keep your eyes out and your common sense when you're interning, right? Because there's a lot of places out there, you know, that will have you cleaning and getting stuff, and that is definitely something that, you know, I'm not big into doing that. I'm also not big into interns, just because, you know, it's a scary thing. But if you're doing that 5 months deep and no one's offered you any advice or anything, you know, jump ship. You know, I interned for 1.5 years before I got hired. But I was hanging out with the owner at his house and having dinner, and I started letting me in on set. You know, so just be really careful, because there are some ruthless people out there that just want to turn you over, you know, you're done, we're on. So just keep an eye out for that, but you have to do it, you know what I mean? So